In 1944, Poland was in the grip of brutal Nazi occupation. After Germany invaded Poland in September 1939, as part of a secret agreement with the Soviet Union in the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, the country was divided in two. The western part of Poland was under Nazi control, while the eastern part was controlled by the Soviets, until the Nazi invasion of the Soviet Union in 1941. During the occupation, Warsaw, the capital of Poland, became the center of severe Nazi repression and violence. The Jewish population of Warsaw was forced into the Warsaw Ghetto. Tens of thousands of Jews died of starvation, disease and systematic murder. In 1943, the Warsaw Ghetto was the site of the largest uprising by Jews against the Nazis, but was ultimately crushed by German forces, and many of the remaining residents were sent to concentration and extermination camps such as Treblinka. Outside the Warsaw Ghetto, the German army and its security forces continued to oppress Polish citizens with a policy of violence and deportation. Any form of resistance or defiance against the Nazis was met with brutal reprisals, such as mass executions and the burning of villages. However, the spirit of Polish resistance remained alive. The underground resistance structure known as Armia Krajowa, under the command of the Polish government in exile in London, grew increasingly powerful and organized. Armia Krajowa not only served as a military resistance movement that sabotaged Nazi installations and attacked German troops, but also became a symbol of hope for oppressed civilians. At that time, their great hope was that the Western Allies, especially Britain and the United States, along with the Soviet Union, which had begun to push German troops on the Eastern Front, would support the effort to liberate Poland. By 1944, the Soviet Red Army had begun to advance towards Poland, after their victory at Stalingrad and other major offensives had pushed the Germans back. As Soviet troops drew closer to Warsaw in mid-1944, optimism emerged among Armia Krajowa and civilians that the end of the German occupation was near. Many hoped that by launching an uprising against the Nazis at the right time, they could take control of the city before the Soviets entered, thus preserving Poland's independence from Soviet influence. The political background between the Polish government in exile and the Soviet Union was complex. Meanwhile, Britain and America supported the Polish government in exile's claim to be the legitimate representative of the Polish people. Stalin had his own ambitions. The Soviets planned to establish a communist government in Poland, as part of their efforts to expand influence in Eastern Europe. When the Red Army was on the outskirts of Warsaw in July 1944, Armia Krajowa under the command of General Tadeusz Komorowski planned a major uprising. They hoped that by liberating Warsaw from the Nazis, they could demonstrate Polish sovereignty before the Soviets, and thus prevent the establishment of a communist puppet regime in Poland. With support from the people of Warsaw who were tired of the occupation, as well as limited weapons assistance from the Allies, Armia Krajowa prepared to fight. On the 1st of August 1944, the Warsaw Uprising began, fueled by the belief that help from the Red Army would soon arrive. Poland's resistance forces, numbering around 40,000 to 50,000 men, consisted of armed fighters who mostly had little training or weapons. Despite this, they fought with extraordinary zeal, controlling much of Warsaw in the early stages of the uprising. This led to disaster. After 63 days of fierce fighting, during which most of Warsaw was destroyed by Nazi counterattacks, the uprising failed.